Another episode of riding my Kawasaki. I'm going to change the colour for the road race events compared to the events on the TT course. I'm going with this sort of colour. We're going to go for a white on the wheels this time instead of a purple. Yeah, I was talking about it last time. Welcome to GTA Online with that exhaust. Talking about it last time about the performance of the bikes. Doesn't look like it gets changed by the actual wait, that sentence was very disjointed. It doesn't look like the bike's performance is changed by you changing the exhaust and stuff. That stuff is just visual. Okay, there we go. My what I was talking about in the last episode, question answered. So yeah, everything's cool. Everything's fine. We're doing 4 laps of the Southern 100 this time instead of just 3. So I guess the 400 is quicker than the 250 and the 125, and that would make sense because it's got a bigger engine. And bikes with bigger engines tend to be faster than bikes with smaller engines. Also, the other guy on the Kawasaki is copying me again. He hasn't got my paint scheme on his Kawasaki, but he does have the same leathers as me. That's not going to help him though. He will never be me, as I'm going to prove by winning this race while he pootles around in probably about 3rd and finishes mid-pack at best. Everyone else pretty much on a Honda, as seems to be the case in pretty much every class that I've raced so far. This game loves its Hondas, and the real world loves its Hondas as well. You know, John McGuinness has been on a Honda for years. He's won plenty of TTs. Pretty sure Guy Martin is on a Honda as well, but I'm not sure what kind. Well, this year I think he's with McGuinness, but like at one point he was on like some kind of custom built Honda thing. I don't know, I can't remember. I've never really watched the TT outside of the 1997 running, so you know, the 97 TT is all I really know. I was playing MotoGP 14 a while back, and one on the loading screens in that game, you get quotes from the riders, just like you did in MotoGP 13. And one of the quotes from Jorge Lorenzo was that most of the riders in MotoGP pretty much know nothing about bikes. They just know how to ride them and how to get the information to the engineers, which is more important than knowing how to like change a tire when you're a bike racer, I guess. So like that means it's okay for me not to know anything about the TT and go out and win it, right? Oh. Well, there's me talking about going out and winning it, and I've managed to lie my bike down through a turn. The first turn, that was a back brake. Now I'm just changing cameras. There is a first-person camera in this game. It's not mounted to the helmet. It's just mounted to the handlebars of the bike, and I don't really get on with it. I've never really gotten on with first-person view in bike games anyway, because riding a bike is mostly about like having the feel for the bike, and when you're in first-person view, you don't have the feel for the bike because you're just, you know, playing with a controller and not an actual bike. You'd need to get like a one of those setups from an arcade where you have like a plastic cutout of a bike, and even then you'd need it to like have G-forces and like that sort of stuff, which you don't get in the arcades. So, you know, building a sim car setup with a steering wheel and stuff. I mean, you still don't get the same feel for a car as you would for driving a car in real life, in a sort of racing seat and with a steering wheel, but it's easier to get a sim feel for a car than it is to get a sim feel for a bike. And I'd be willing to bet you could never get a sim set up for a motocross racing game, because you'd have to somehow be able to feel all the jumps and stuff. I feel like at some point they could make racing esports just as real as the real thing, if they like put needles in people's brains that gave them the same sensation as driving an actual car. The only problem with that being that, like, if they crash really hard, potentially they could actually die, even though they were only playing a game. It'd be like Sword Art Online, but in real life. But also, as well as in real life, a video game. And then, if you die in the game, you die in real life, is basically what I'm trying to get at here. And the brain needle stuff comes from the Matrix. But like I was talking about before, everything's been done before. I can't remember why I said that, but that was definitely in an episode of this game that I recorded earlier on today. Where I pointed out that every idea has been had in the past by someone else, and probably done. So I'd leave you with that happy thought for a while. If you've ever had an idea for a novel or a TV show or anything, give up now. I've already given up on trying to be a writer, and I haven't even tried starting. It's a sad existence for me. I've also given up any hope on being a decent YouTuber who like edits his videos and stuff, because I don't have the drive to do so. At some point I will. Probably. I'll like forcibly learn myself Sony Vegas, and I'll get a decent computer, and I'll get a mic and stuff. And I'll sort myself out, but until then, we're going movie maker style-y.
No room for a mistake around this one.
Maybe I'll add in some movie maker transition in there to make that joke, but probably won't. Probably just gonna leave it. I'm thinking I'm gonna just leave it. I'm leaving it. It's being left. And it's gone. Although I'm pretty sure they didn't model this track the other way around for the... Wait. Yeah, no, yeah. They made it so it would work both ways, I guess. I was about to say I just saw a couple of signposts facing backwards. Like advertising boards. But then I remembered we're doing the Southern 100 rather than the Castletown layout. So I guess instead... I mean, resources were probably limited in 2005, to be fair, for a motorcycle game like this, of a company that made about 4 games in total. Budget was probably a little bit tight, so I'm not going to blame them too much for only modelling, like, 2 tracks. I used to think they modelled 3 tracks. I used to think that Castletown and the Southern 100 were slightly different. But it turns out they just they did reuse the same model backwards, which actually makes the most sense. So I'm not going to rag on Jester for that. That was a good idea, because it is just the same thing backwards. They did release a game that had the TT course and Macau and a couple of other road race courses, I think. I've got to get Ride and Ride 2. Definitely. Those are games two games that I want. Ride 2 mostly. But the first Ride as well.
No room for a mistake around this one. Over the hill, check bend. Don't want to get it wrong round there.
I'll just lean on that wall to go through it. I mean, I'll just go through that wall instead of leaning on it. Nah, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. I'm on the last two corners, so it doesn't matter that I made a little mistake with the commentary there. It's cool. It's whatever. See if I can do a wheelie over the line. I feel like I've got a decent enough gap to the bikes behind to make it. Oh! That red mark was a guy that I'm lapping. Or would lap if there was more time in the race. Go on, front wheel. There we go. Yay! My bike finished for me. Good, well done. Well, there we go. That's... Nice one. Good job, everybody. Well done. Congratulations. Good finish. Good, strong, totally not embarrassing finish. New bike, new wheels. Wonder what I got. Well, we're going to find out next week, probably. I imagine it was another 400 bike unlock. Doesn't really make sense for it not to be.